Welcome to my episode with Carly and Chad. The topic is French ring. Thank you guys for joining.
Thank
Let's
you.
cheers.
Cheers.
Yep, go and focus. Cheers. Chug chug. Carly and I have been following each other for a few years. I used to follow her when she lived on the East Coast. She competed in French ring with her shepherd. So for me, I was just like, ooh, a shepherd doing French ring. That was super exciting for me and was very successful with that dog. So tell me a little bit about your guys' background, how you met, how you got into sport, how you got into dogs, just the whole thing.
Yeah, Chad has a much longer resume, I guess, than I do.
We'll just talk about how you got involved with dog sports.
Yeah, so I got my first working line shepherd. Didn't really plan on it. She was from a first time breeder. Turned out to be a pretty successful litter. She was a super cool dog. She's retired now. She's a decoy teaching dog. She likes to party when she comes out to the field, but she was my introduction to dog sports. I didn't really know what French ring was when I got her, but that was the closest club to me. So I got started with that, and then yeah, that was my intro to French ring. Was Rika. What was your intro to French ring?
Um, I grew up. I actually grew up doing IPO, or Schutzen as they called it then, with my border collies. I did that for fun
Awesome.
when I was a little kid, and then I worked for actually a dog training facility, and kind of the highlight was always working with some of the protection dogs that the guy had worked with and thrown on the sleeve and catching dogs, and I just kind of had a knack for catching dogs at a really young age and being able to catch like big shepherds and things like that. So there was a lot of like people that like to just have me come and do like some shoots and stuff in the clubs. And then 15 years ago, exactly, it was the beginning of 2009. So I think that's 15 years ago on the dot. I had somebody contact me and say, "Hey, I heard you're pretty handy with catching dogs in the sleeve. Do you want to try to catch dogs with suit?" And I'm like, sure. And I really didn't know a whole lot about it. And they're like, "It's called French Ring. Just come on out, meet us at this park, and let's do it." So,
It's always at the parks.
So with
yeah,
parks.
yeah, always at the parks. So I went out and jumped in some suit that didn't even fit me and started just taking advice from a couple of these people that were trying to, get a little club going. And then before I know it, that night I was hooked. And I'm like, okay, well, I've always liked Malinois and Shepherds and things like that. So I literally, after that first night, I found myself my first Malinois. Had her shipped over. Actually came from Waleed, from Barrique's Malinois.
Awesome. We have a
So
couple dogs in our club from Waleed.
okay. So Wally and I go way back. I got my first dog from him, and started getting into ring. And at that time is when I was starting my own business as well, and had the opportunity to kind of build a big club and a big ring field here, and it took off for me. And there's I don't know how far you want to go into. I could go on for a very long time about kind of my last 15 years in ring, but it's definitely. I always like to tell people that I failed my first like 8 or 9 attempts at ring one with my dog. Like I just barely squeezed by my brevet. I still was learning what I was doing. I really didn't have a whole lot of help. I was learning as I was going myself. And I just got my motivation from wanting to just get better and learn more and do things, and I just kept resourcing it. And then I got to a point where I'm making trips to France, and now I'm competing, and then I start winning national championships and regional championships, and then just getting to the point to where we are today, where we have an incredibly successful club. And some
Yeah.
people may argue, but I think our club has the most championship wins with national championships, regional championships, and ring in the last I think in ever in ring sport since 1989.
Oh
So
wow. That's awesome.
there's been a lot
Congratulations.
of cool stuff we've done.
You guys are killing it over there. I feel like a lot of people have a similar background to where they just kind of throw on a suit that's bigger than they are, that doesn't fit them, and you know, dogs just start running at them, and from there, the rest is kind of history. John had a
For
similar
sure.
experience. How did you guys meet?
So I I got a phone call a few years ago from Miss Carly saying, "Hey, I got your number from a friend of mine. She says that you have a great dog training facility out there. I'm looking for a change of pace and just and inquiring in a dog training job if you have something available." And I'm like, "I'm sorry, like I don't have anything available. I'm not hiring right now, but send me over your resume and I'll keep it in mind. And if I'm interested, I'll give you a call." And so she sent me a resume, and I looked at it and go, "Oh man, like this girl, she knows her stuff. Like she got a lot of horse background stuff, and then of course, I creeped her a little bit on Facebook and saw her dog stuff that she was doing, and everything that she said she was. I mean, it made it very clear like that's who she was, and I reached out to our mutual friend, and she's like, no, like she knows her stuff for sure. So I called her back and I said, hey, um, I if you want to come out here and check out the place, you're more than welcome to see if you like it, and if you like it, then we can talk about the job mechanics of it. So um, we set it up for her to come out, and it was coincidentally when I was hosting a regional championship event here. She
Awesome.
came out, had a chance to meet everybody in the club, but most importantly, kind of meet the people in the business aspect of things. And then, of course, I tell people when she got out of the car, she took an Uber here, and she got out of the Uber. I said, "Oh boy, I'm in trouble with this one."
Oh, that's so
And I
cute.
guess we could say the rest is history.
The rest
So
of history. Look at you guys.
things happen very quickly, but hey, when you know what you want, you know what you want, I guess. So
For sure.
Me and John knew each other for less than a year before we got married. So
Really?
yeah, and it's gonna be. See, I don't even know at this point. What is it? 2024. We got married in 2017. So
And she lived on the East Coast, or sorry, the West Coast.
yeah.
We
okay,
Oh
flopped.
yeah, we switched.
got
She knows Juan very well.
it. Who?
Juan.
Okay,
I have a little bit of background. Obviously, not nearly as much training or experience as you guys have in ring. But when John and I lived in California, he didn't get into decoying or working dogs until probably like 6 months after we moved. I had already been doing it in Maryland when we lived there. And then in California is when I met Sherrod. So we met Juan through Sherrod. We would drive like hours, like 4 hours sometimes one way to drive up to LA. And Juan pretty much just taught Sherrod and John how to catch ring dogs. It definitely gives you a new appreciation. If I had only had PSA background, you don't appreciate how much talent and skill it takes to catch a ring dog.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying catching any dog in any sport is easy, but catching a ring dog, especially ones that are quick and light on their feet, is pretty hard.
For sure.
I feel like it's a lot easier in ring to injure yourself or injure the dog. Just kind of the way, they're
and
coming in.
that's why I got into it, is because I'd seen things at PSA, and like no disrespect to PSA, but I'm like, oh, like I it's like dog against decoy, and like I can take the stick and put it where I want to, and I can make the dog miss me, and I can do this. I'm
Yeah,
like, oh, I want to do that.
yeah.
So, and then when I saw what like the decoys could do to the dogs, and what the dog to do to the decoys, and how they could basically target anywhere on the bite suit that they want, and it was, yeah, I was like, oh, I want to do that. So absolutely, that's why I went down that rabbit hole.
One of the things that drew me away from ring, there's two things. One is obviously there's like no clubs. So that was a huge problem because I knew we were moving back to the East Coast. There's not a ring club. Well, there's a Mondio club down south, but there's not a French ring club. The other thing too is you have to be a really good handler and competitor to do well. So I've always liked ring. The dog that I started training in ring with, she just had a lot of injuries. She's a poorly bred dog anyway, so I just retired from her from sport. Terrible sport dog. All she wants to do is bite. Complete bit.
That's my shepherd now. But yeah, you're 100% right. Like, you as the handler can cost your dog a ton of points. And Maestro is my first dog that I've like reached the upper levels with. And basically, like, even when I went into ring two, he's like, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes, blah, blah, blah. And I made honestly minimal mistakes with him going into our second leg of ring two. And then I cost him 5 points, which was more or less a different place on the podium
Yeah.
for us at the regionals, because I was so nervous with the blind search that I stood on the positions box instead of the X because they were so close together and the sun was in my eyes. I almost timed him out and I almost cost him the full 40 points. But Chad's
Yeah.
like, every time I get on the field, especially for our first ring three, he's like, you're gonna cost him so many points. You're just gonna cost him so many points. I'm like, because it's my first time in ring three, and
Yeah.
you don't really appreciate how much you can do to screw your dog until you're in the upper levels,
Yep.
because there is so many things. I mean, you go from ring one where it's 200 points to 400 points in ring three, and it's crazy, the little
Yeah.
things. And the new rule book is coming out with some more stuff too, and it's like, it's a
Whenever a
lot.
new book comes out, you're just kind of like, okay,
I know.
what's got going on here?
I know. Trust
Yeah,
me.
Charlie just got her ring three. Congratulations on that. That's so
Yes, thank
exciting.
you.
Currently, I have a 14-week-old puppy. He's a very well-bred French line puppy that's kind of my next up and coming prospect.
Awesome.
So far, looks very promising. His name is Houston, which is named after a dog in France from about 15 years ago, a very famous dog that Marc Vallon had. So I had to name it a U name. So actually seemed kind of fitting, seemed like a pretty cool puppy, and I like the name. So
Yeah.
that's the young dog I have right now that I'm currently training. And then my two other dogs, my two other males that I currently have are almost 8 years old and almost 12 years old. And it's Kratos and Horace. So Kratos is the dog I just retired. I just finished the championship with him last year. Um, Won Ring 3 vice champion with him last year. So we took
Congrats.
second place in the cup, second place in the championship. Um, and that was a lot to get him there because I actually had retired him 3 years previously due to an
Oh,
injury, and he
okay.
was out of ring for 10 months, and miraculously, after thousands and thousands of dollars and not knowing really what their prognosis, he had a knee issue. Like basically, I think it was a bone chip that was in his joint that they couldn't pick up on the MRI or the CT scans. Long story short, he was basically crippled. If I worked him, he was crippled, absolutely crippled the next day. And that went on. I gave him 8 weeks of crate rest. Didn't work. I did this. Didn't work. I started doing physical therapy. Didn't work. And I said, you know what? You're a great pet. You can just hang out. And then one day I think it was after having a couple too many screwdrivers at a breakfast. I decided, let's take him outside, and I want to just go train him and jump him and do stuff. And he started jumping. He jumped great, and he did this and he did that, and he like wasn't limping. And he was like, I'm like, whoa, like he's good now. So I call my best friend David, who's my training partner basically, and said, hey, we got a shot at getting this dog going. I think like let's get him dialed in, and I crammed basically 2 weeks of training into him to do the regional championship with him. He was completely out of shape.
Gosh.
We kicked butt in that, and then that year and then 4 weeks later we went to the cup in the championship in California. That was in 2021, and just after being 4 weeks out of retirement, we won out of I think 13 dogs. We won the Ring 3 Cup that year.
Oh my
So
gosh.
it was
That's
it
so
was it
cute.
was a pretty cool thing, and I'm like, okay, cool. Well, he held up, and he's definitely was a little sore and tender, so I kept his leg wrapped, and I kind of found the right little, Carly did a bunch of stuff with him to help kind of rehab him and keep him going, but we found the kind of the right balance. As long as we do this and don't overdo this, we can keep him going. But anyways, he was a phenomenal dog. But I love my dogs, and I want to reach a point to where I can retire them before they're completely falling apart.
Yeah.
So he could have gone another year probably, but just his body, he mentally could have, but his body couldn't have, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. So I'm like, nope, we'll call it. And so he was a great. I think I did 15 ring threes with that dog.
Oh my gosh. That's
He's
amazing.
was a super 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 cool dog. So
And he's out of his breeding program.
yep, and he's a dog. So the cool thing about this dog is that his dad Horace, who I'm going to talk about here in 2 seconds, I won the championship, French Ring Championship with Horace. I won the following year, the championship with his mom Doska. I
Oh my
bred
goodness.
them, got Kratos, and then I won the basically the cup with him in 2021, and then I won vice champion with him. And so it was pretty cool to have all these dogs that I took raised, bred and trained myself, that I've taken to the highest level, and that all of that's just my genetics. It was a pretty cool
That's so
accomplishment for
rewarding.
myself.
Yeah. It makes you
Um,
feel good as a
and then
breeder.
Horace he's kind of like the, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for him. He's just no exaggeration. He's the best all around dog. He's the father to pretty much 3/4 of the dogs that we train with. There's a lot of dogs. There's a handful of dogs in PSA that do well,
Yeah,
that he's out
actually,
of.
they're a handful.
There's he's the most stable, steady dog on the earth, and he was an absolute banger on the field. And I had to retire him at like 6 years old from a disc issue in his back from an injury. But still to this day, I mean, I think he's laying at our feet right now, just laying here, just 12 years old, the happiest dog that's enjoyed the last 6 years of his retirement and making babies. So those are my three current dogs that I have. I've had lots of previous dogs in the past, that I've done a lot of great things with, but they're no longer with us at this point. But yeah, go ahead, talk about your dogs.
Yeah, I have my shepherd that Taylor brought up before, Rika. She's going on 5. She's retired, as I said. She parties. I won her first leg of ring one, decided to drive out to Georgia, do her ring one at the Eastern Regional that year. We won out of like 12 Malinois, scored a 198.35
That's
or something. Yeah, it was super, super cool. First time like traveling with her like that and stuff like that. So she won the Eastern Regional that year, and then came out here, did I do the championships with her that year? I don't. I
You
think
didn't.
you did.
No, it
No,
was the
you did the
following year.
following year.
Hmm.
Yeah. She's such a smart female. But anyways, she basically won a ton of things in ring one. She could have like pressure wise, decoy stuff, like could have handled all of the above when it come to like ring three stuff. But it just got to a point where like females, heat cycles, all that stuff. I'm like, you know what? I just don't want to deal with it. And I love her dearly. She's the best house dog with my daughter, our daughter. She's such a good dog. So she just is a great decoy teaching dog. She comes out, has some fun, and she just lives a retired life now. And then Maestro's my ring three dog that I mentioned before. He's out of Chad's breeding program as well. He is a son of Horace, who he was just talking about, and then his grandmother is Doska, the female that he was also talking about. He's a phenomenal dog. He was supposed to be Chad's dog, and
oh,
I kind of he was Chad's up and coming dog. Yeah, when I moved out here, I was like, "What's this one doing?" And he just kind of was sitting, and I
how
was
did
like,
that
"He's really
happen?
pretty.
He's really
I really
pretty.
like him." So I started messing around with him, and we just like clicked. Like Chad was like, "He's your dog. Like you just need to take him." And I'm like, "I really don't want a Malinois." Like at that time, like we
You
weren't
sound
living
like
together.
me. You
Yeah,
sound
we had just moved out. I just moved out here. It was like what, a couple months in. I'm like, I can't bring a Malinois out of my house that I'm renting. Like, I don't know. This isn't going to work out. But I just still kind of like club nights would pull him out and do stuff. And like, before I knew it, I'm like, this dog is absolutely my dog. Like, there is no way he's going anywhere. So, from, we did basically his brevet to ring three in a year and a couple weeks.
oh my gosh,
So,
amazing. I didn't even realize how little time it was.
yeah, he just turned three. His birthday was actually yesterday. So, we did brevet and ring one. Yeah, happy birthday, Maestro. Brevet and ring one in one weekend. Then a couple weeks later, I went to Hawaii, did his second leg of ring one, then did a trial here, like what, a month postpartum. His first leg of ring two, and then did his second leg of ring two at the regionals, and then his first leg of ring three here at our December trial. So
I didn't realize you
that's
went to Hawaii.
yeah, and I'm going to Hawaii in a couple weeks. Couple weeks now, right? A month.
Month.
Yeah, in a month. And that'll be my second leg of ring three to qualify me for the championships this year. And then my first pre selective to hopefully do some stuff in France for 2025.
That's awesome. I can't wait to see it. I know you guys will get it. You guys are an awesome team.
Yeah,
You're
he's
going to Hawaii.
he's he's definitely a very special dog, but I'm sure Chad will back me on this. He's terrifying to send downfield, so there's always just that risk of injury and stuff like that.
Wearing the shirt.
Oh
I
yeah,
just moved my
look
hair
at
back.
that.
Check
I
it
realized
out.
I was wearing it. I figured
Reppin', I love it.
I had to rep for our episode. You guys have some awesome dogs.
Here's the thing about Malinois versus Shepherd. Like, I don't care if you have the nicest Shepherd in the world. I mean, how often have you seen a German Shepherd jump max on all ring three jumps? Minimal.
In France, but there's 2,500 dogs there that are competing,
Yeah,
not
like
10.
I think that the breeding program is probably very different as well over there because it is more common over in France to have a German Shepherd. Like it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this person has a German Shepherd. Whereas it is here where we see
That's
them, but like people are usually like, oh my gosh, a Shepherd, like.
yeah.
But I feel like I can honestly say going from, and I know a lot of my issues with my Shepherd was like heat cycles and stuff like that. I don't really know what she would have been like as a boy. But I think back on the things I struggled with, and I'm just like, it is so nice to have a dog that is bred to do the things that you're doing with it and do it so effortlessly.
Yeah.
you know, like the jumping and honestly, Rika could jump. She was never gonna max out on the long jump and stuff or on the palisade, but I could have got her like 1, 2 on the hurdle, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe
There's just no
4.
comparison in terms of agility. I mean,
There's
they're
just not. There's not. They're just built so different. They're, you know, it's pros and cons too though, like m- looking at like let's just say I made it to ring 3 with my shepherd. I would have lost half the points maybe with like the esquives and stuff like that cuz she's not fast. But when you have a dog that's fast and stuff like that, like I'll take those points all day long if it means my dog doesn't get hurt. You know,
yeah,
like Chad and I kind of go back and forth sometimes. Cause I'm just like, maybe we need to just do some catches with him. And Chad's like, no, why? Just like, don't even catch him. Like, just make him go downfield and think he can't even bite half the
yeah,
time. Like, he's like, I'd rather do 50 stopped attacks with this dog than ever give him face attacks
yeah,
just to try and slow him down.
yeah. He is fast. That's why he takes everyone down. He
He's
obviously
fast and he's fast and he puts everything behind him. So it's terrifying. Just like his dad, like Horace was, Maestro's faster than Horace, but Horace hit like a freaking freight train.
Horse was more powerful.
Yeah, like just hit like he just would run through the decoy if that's what he had to do. And then Maestro's grandfather, Icar, who's owned by David, was just a super fast dog too, who could like at the last minute just turn sideways and grab like the decoy's leg. It was just it's crazy. And he got a little bit of both of them. So
yeah. Your dogs are so impressive. My favorite video of Horace, which I think everyone on Instagram could attest to, is the video of him with your baby just being
yeah.
so cute. That I remember that video made its rounds for good reason. That was the cutest video. And there's
I'm pissed at TikTok because I didn't get paid for that shit.
did you put it on TikTok or someone else posted
I
it?
put it on TikTok and it got like over a million, didn't it?
I don't know.
It got over a million, 100%.
I don't do TikTok, so
He doesn't know how to work TikTok, but I put it on TikTok. The Karens came out and made comments about how my dog was going to bite my kid in the face and all that stuff. And I'm like, okay, for
Okay, but
sure.
where's the money?
Definitely worried about this one.
Yeah. Yeah, he's such a good dog. And there's nothing like, especially with a Mal, I mean, with Shepherds, like their whole thing is supposed to be good family dogs and good with kids and that. But
Yeah.
especially having a Mal that's so well rounded and so powerful on the field and such a
Yeah.
strong dog, but also be like that with your child, you can't put a price on that. Uh,
No. And I tell people all the time too, because he's definitely a well-known dog. I'm like, if you saw him in my house, you wouldn't think he worked because of
yeah,
how chill he is. Like he's so calm, like he doesn't bark. He's like he'll just lay down, he'll nudge you and he'll just be like pet me. Like we
cute.
joke and we say like if someone came in my house that he didn't know and was going to like rob the house, like he would be the dog to be like, "Hey, I'll show you where it is. Come on." As long as you're petting me, like it's good.
He's like the resident house cat.
Yes.
the very hard thing for me is that I got very, very lucky with my first, heck, like my first 6 or 7 ring dogs that I had. I did very well with all of them. And most people go through a lot of dogs to get that perfect dog, and they make a lot of mistakes and do things. And I kind of got spoiled because I had some pretty exceptional dogs right off the get go. And so then when I started, getting back into wanting to get a puppy, actually about 2 years ago, there was a litter that we did. It was a horse litter with another one of David's females, and turned out to be a super nice litter. But there were just little teeny tiny things about the dog that most people could care less about, but just things that I'm like, oh no, like nope, it's not Kratos, nope, that's not Horus, that's not. I have I've had it all, and I'm going to compare that as much as I shouldn't do that. I compare it to what I've had. I know what I have. I know what I can have. And if I have
Yeah,
a puppy that's not doing certain things by a certain time, or maybe just isn't engaged with the obedience with me, yes, it's something that can absolutely, when the puppy's, a year and a half to 2 years old, then it can come out and get better. But it's just like, I'll admit, like, I'm a very impatient person because
yeah,
I've had that before.
yeah.
And so that's been I've had 2 puppies that ended up selling as personal protection dogs. They were phenomenal dogs, great dogs,
Would have been good ring
would have been
dogs.
phenomenal ring dogs, but I'm just so incredibly picky with how I want certain things. So that's kind of where that's just my own personal battle with myself, nobody else.
But I
Just
don't think there's anything wrong with that necessarily because look at how successful you've been. I mean, you know?
yeah, I know I know I've been around the block, and I've not only my own dogs, but just other people, have helped them get to the higher levels and win a lot of, competitions and have great success with their dogs. I'm confident enough to know at 6 months old, I know what a dog needs to have in order to be A, B, or C, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Based off certain things I do with them. So yeah. Anyways, this puppy, he's great. He's phenomenal. I mean, for me, like we talked about, like social ability is the most important aspect of things. Obviously, workability, but like our dogs have to live with us. Our dogs don't go live in crates. They come in the house. They live with us. If they can't do that, then they've got to go. Like that's just kind of the mentality I have. I've got my daughters are my priority. I'm not going to revolve my life around a dog that's not going to be good with kids or do that type of thing. So it's just super important to me to have that, but also obviously have all the qualities and traits I want of a dog and a working dog. So yeah, my goal is, so you ask goals, like my goal is, I'm the first person to win 3 championships. There's 3 people in ring sport history since 1989 that have won 3 championships, but I'm the only one to do it with 3 different dogs.
That's amazing.
So I've won 3 different championships with 3 different dogs. Those other 3 championships were won with all the same dog for those handlers. So they did a great job with the same dog. I did it with 3 different dogs. My goal is, I won vice championship with Kratos last year. Yes, that's obviously still an incredible, accomplishment. But at the same time, like my goal is, I want to win
First
four
place.
championships with 4 different dogs.
Yeah.
I want to win 5 different championships with 5 different dogs. Like that's my goal for myself. As much as anyone would love to win it one time. Like that's where I'm at in my head. Is I want to do it with as many dogs as I can for as
Yeah.
long as I can, as long as I can do the sport. Like that's what I want to do for myself.
That's amazing. People accomplishing things with the same dog over and over. It's still a huge accomplishment. Winning anything of that capacity is amazing. But to do it with 3 completely different dogs, that speaks on you as a trainer. Do you plan on getting another dog or puppy anytime soon, or
No.
happy?
He says this, but it's so funny because he has no right to, because I haven't even attempted to bring in another dog. So trust me, I'm like the type of person where I want to give like 150% to my dog.
Yeah.
And so it was hard enough, even just like what kind of ended up happening was I was working Rika and Maestro, and I'm like just battling with Rika, and I'm like, I just need to I don't want to have this conflict with her. Like she's just gonna be retired and
Yeah.
we'll give her a break. Honestly, my plan was to breed her. I tried to breed her to Dominic Scarberry's dog, Bola, and the breeding didn't take. We didn't get a live cover. I do plan to repeat it at some point, but it's just there's never a good time. When she's due to come into heat, I'll be in Hawaii and Dom will be in France with Bola, so it's like just that. But I will eventually probably get another dog when I look at it like Maestro's like just at the prime of his career, and so
Turn 3.
I don't want to be training 2 dogs at once. I want to put everything into him, and my goal this year is to, do the championships here, but I'm doing all of my pre-selectifs for France to hopefully compete in 2025 for the selectifs in France. So all that being said, that means I have to do 5 Ring 3 trials. 2 of them can be outside of France, and the other 3 have to be in France, and there's requirements for it. So like the 2 that I have to do here have to be a French judge, a French level 2 or 3 decoy, and then the second decoy has to be a decoy that was certified under a French judge. So it can be American, but it has to be someone that was certified under a French judge. So
Oh
they
my
just make
God.
it very challenging. And then at the end of that, they take the scores of your 5 trials that you do. They take the top, I think, 240 dogs, and then those are the dogs that are invited to go and compete at the selectifs, and the selectifs is 3 trials in itself. So I will realistically have been doing, including the championship this year and the regionals, like 7 trials by next year in Ring 3, not including the one that I just did. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, we'll see.
He's supportive, right?
Yeah, we'll
He's
see.
supportive, but he's also like, with that being said, you also like that means he has to be perfect on every stopped attack, and he has to, because the scores matter. You can't just, it's not just, oh, you have to pass. Like, your scores matter.
Yeah.
So
Well, we're sending you all the good vibes. I can't wait
thank
to
you.
see the outcome of that. Do you guys worry about the future of French ring and just in the terms of I feel like it hasn't grown much, unless you guys feel differently, because obviously you're the ones in it, training, competing every day. But from the outside looking in, when I was training in French ring, it was still pretty minimal. And then, like I said, it's just hard to find a club. So, what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I've been in it for 15 years now, and honestly, I've seen it pretty steady for the most part. I've not seen it grow as much as I'd like to see it grow. But it's been steady the 15 years that I've been in it. And then to my understanding, as I'm a judge for French ring as well. So I'm involved of a lot of aspects of ring, and there's a lot of politics like there's in any sport, but all of that put together, it's still the same thing. You still have a group of people. People are who are gonna compete. They're gonna compete. People are gonna want to train ring. Are gonna train ring. I mean, I was at a point where I was training even by myself. I mean, I went from having a club with 25 dogs and 15 handlers to now it's 4 or 5 people and a few dogs and keeping it simple.
Yeah.
I'll admit it's hard because I'm really the only person that's like an active. We're the only active club out here in Arizona doing ring, but I just, as much as I want to be able to help the sport grow, that's why I became a judge, because I wanted to be like a positive influence for the sport, but also to help like educate people and to be a representation of what the sport should be and to hold a standard to the sport. Those are my reasons for being a judge, which I think are pretty legitimate reasons of why somebody want to take those steps to put in the effort to do that. So again, I did that to benefit the organization, with just holding a standard to what I was taught by people that I looked up to, and I want to help kind of carry that out, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But even when people want to come and train with us, it's like I tell them, I'm like, listen, I don't mind training with you, but I don't have the time and consistency to be able to help you to grow, because of two businesses I'm running, and we travel all the time. We're here, we're delivering dogs all over the country for the other business that we have. I mean, we're all over the place. And that's not fair to a lot of people that want to come in here and put their time into it. So I just have nothing but excuses for people when it comes to that, and I'll be the first to admit. And on the contrary, there's a lot of people that they don't want to allow people come in, period. Or they, if there's that, it seems to be the thing is if somebody comes in and trains with one person and then that person goes and trains, on one weekend with another person. I get it because it's supposed to be a club setting, but there's people that will completely just like, nope, you're done. You trained with him. I don't want to touch you. I don't want to talk to you anymore. They screwed your
Yeah.
dog up. I don't want to deal with it. And then people can't get the help anymore, and then they just go on to different sports like PSA or IPO or something where you have a lot more resources. Maybe not a lot more, but definitely more than what there is for ring. So
Yeah.
I don't think that it's gonna. I don't think that there's a future that needs to be worried for the downfall of ring or the end of ring. But I unfortunately I don't think it's gonna quite grow the way that we need it to in the next couple years at least. I'm hoping to. I want to be optimistic and say that, but that's just me saying that.
Yeah.
Just there's a lot of good board members now. They say they have things that they want to change and make for the better. And okay, well let's do it then. Let's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Easier said than done.
But trying to hold the same standards to France to here, obviously that's what our job is in French ring is like we're following a French derived sport. But at the same time, you can go in France and you can go any weekend. There's about 25 to 30 different trials going on every single weekend all over the country of France. We don't even have more than probably 10 to 15 trials a year in the US. Maybe up to 20 sometimes, but that's it. And they're all over the country. Like you got to drive if hey, the only trial coming up is in Ohio. I mean, I got to drive 1,500 miles or fly out to Ohio to go compete with my dog. I don't really have those resources of it readily available to me, and then that's obviously expensive.
Yeah.
I've spent more money in this sport just like you have, and dogs and everyone. I've spent more money in ring sport than you could ever imagine, like
Yeah.
traveling and competing and doing that stuff, and putting up hotels and travel, rental cars, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of people they can't do that. They can't swing that. Like they got jobs. They got to be at job. They can't keep taking off of work, and to be able to not having the resources in your backyard and have to travel to do all these things, it's just then you get people that just drop out of it or they go into a different sport.
Yeah,
So
yeah, the accessibility of it is a huge thing.
Yeah, and just like any other sport, like you're only as good as the people that you're training with,
Yep.
realistically. So,
your dog's as good as your decoy.
100%.
Yeah, especially for ring.
Yeah.
I love the sport. It's definitely a difficult sport, and I think
Yeah.
that that could draw people away too. Maybe people that aren't serious at competing, or maybe they don't have the dog for it, or maybe they think they don't have the dog, or they just don't have good decoys. Because that's one sport out of all the sports that I would compete with my dog in. Maybe not having the best decoys, it's not that one. Like I'm not trying to have my dog get their neck broken, you know?
Yeah, and it's hard too because there's not really like I see PSA stuff and I'm like, oh, it's so cool. Like you guys have these like entry songs and you guys have these like big nationals and I'm just like it's a shame that we don't do that type of stuff. And I know that people have brought it up and people have said stuff about it and like Chad mentioned, there are some new people on the board and stuff that are definitely trying to, head in that direction, but it takes a lot to get that. And so I totally give props to all the people on the board or whoever is in charge of that stuff for PSA because I think it's so cool. I think it's super motivating. I think it's encouraging for people to want to get into it, to be able to do that. Like it's awesome.
Yeah.
Whereas like in ring as well, like we don't have many people, bless you,
Excuse me.
Bless.
that are even really trying to grow it, I guess, in a sense. Like there's David and Chad are like the main people that host seminars. They do decoy seminars every year. He's gonna hopefully do a handler seminar too. It's one of those things where we've kind of gone back and forth where you have those people that are out there that definitely just want to like go and do bite work with their dogs because I think it's cool. And
Yeah.
then you have people that like genuinely don't have the help and want to do well and are new in the sport and need help. Like they need the rules, they need to like understand all that stuff, have hands-on experience and so like that's why we were saying like looking from when I had first gotten into it, like I 100% would have attended a handler seminar, but not everyone would do that because some people are really just in it because they don't have the resources and they don't want really the control on their dog. They just want to do the bite work and
Yeah.
really just I guess have cool videos. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that is the downside of social media is that some people are just in it for the wrong reasons and
Yeah.
want to post a video of their dog
Like
biting. And
Chad makes so much fun of me. He's like, "Oh, another video of Maestro. Oh, the Maestro. Are you gonna post a post birthday picture of Maestro?" I'm like, "Screw you."
I've always loved posting of my dogs, and one of the people I used to train with some personal protection people in Maryland, they would literally tell me that I couldn't take videos and that they didn't want to associate with me if I posted online. Which, to an extent, I understand. It's not that like I'm like I need to post videos, but I just enjoy it. It's not for the clout.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like to put those memories in one.
For
And
sure. I go back and watch it because I'm just like, "Oh, I remember this."
Don't
yeah,
fool her.
like sometimes obviously not anytime recently because I've been pregnant for forever and then I just had him, but like I
Yeah.
get drunk, go through my Instagram, look at my breeding page, look at all their puppy videos, I'm like crying. Yeah, it's pathetic. um
Becoming a mother changes you.
oh yes, it does.
100%.
Yeah, I definitely. So John and I didn't plan to have kids. It was a surprise. He was a surprise baby. We were actually on our way out to club, and I never told this story like for the interwebs, but we were actually on our way out to club. All the dogs were loaded, and like my boobs just hurt really bad. I'm like, I'm definitely not pregnant, but let me just make sure because I was supposed to go drinking the next day with one of my friends.
This
And
is like the same
got the
thing.
line test, and I'm like, oh my god, like you're so cheap. Hold on, let me make. I should have moved my mic in the beginning. I hope the audio doesn't suck. I'm terrible at this. I just started. So I took the test, and like the lines lit up immediately, and I'm like, oh, you need to see this. So then I take the other one. The lines are lighting up. I'm like, there's no fucking way. It just felt like life froze. When you have an idea of what your life is going to be like, because we're just especially being in dog sports, like you love the free. While I was pregnant, there was this last minute trial, a spa opened up. I was literally at a Charlie Puth concert. We got tickets for free. I didn't spend money on Charlie Puth. Don't worry. I got free tickets. And Andrew texted me, like my friend in decoy, he's like, oh, a spot opened up and it was in like Boston and it's like a 6-hour drive for me. So I would have had to drive overnight because it was Friday night. And again, I'm at a concert. It's like 9 o'clock at night. And I just went. I finished the concert. I literally went home, drank some coffee, and then drove through the night by myself. I was like 5 months pregnant in the middle
Oh
of the
my
night
gosh.
with my dogs. And just that freedom of being able to drop everything and do the things that you want to do, that's like a huge thing for John and I. So, long story short, obviously I got pregnant, I had a baby. But now that he's here, I can't believe that I didn't want any kids. Like my whole life, just like some people say that they had a hard time bonding with their baby at first. And that definitely was not my case, and not anything negative towards people that felt like that. It's, hormonally, there's just, you're like blown up. But
Yeah.
it was just like my whole life, I feel like in a blink of an eye just became something different. I became different, and everything, I just felt more at peace at everything. Like everything just felt like, I don't know, I can't explain it. Obviously, I'm sure you feel, the same way, or at least similarly, that
Yeah.
it just
I
changes.
had a very similar situation to that. I basically was like, I'm definitely not pregnant, but I'm gonna pee on this stick, and immediately 2 lines, and I'm like, and I, not even kidding, convinced myself that it was negative.
You had
Like,
all the time to process it because you were yourself. I was at a private lesson and I get a picture of a pregnancy test that says I'm pregnant. Like I'm in the middle. It couldn't even wait for me to finish my lesson. I'm in the middle of a lesson and my heart drops and I'm
And
just
you're just
like
looking at your phone, you're like,
I can't even function.
I
No, it showed up on my Apple Watch and I'm like, are you shitting me?
what do you
Like,
mean you're pregnant?
I literally, we went to New York and saw my family, and like I went ham. Like I was supposed to, without getting into details, basically I was supposed to like be on my period at that point, and like I didn't really get it, but I didn't think much of it. And then all of a sudden I got home and I was like constantly waking up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, and I'm like, I'm just gonna pee on a stick because I'm neurotic and just gonna make sure. And I peed on it, and immediately 2 lines. And I like swear I've never had a positive pregnancy test. So I'm like looking at it and I'm like, oh, it's negative. It's negative.
Something
Like
must
I,
be
for like
sensitive.
5 minutes, I'm like negative, negative. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, like what? So I peed on three more.
Sorry, my sister's asking me where she could watch Jersey Shore. Oh my god, I can't.
You can still watch that?
Yeah,
Hmm.
I love Jersey Shore. I know it sounds really, because I'm
She's
from
from
Jersey.
New Jersey.
Yeah, he doesn't care about Jersey Shore. He doesn't want to hear about it.
No, he would never. He would shit watching Jersey
I
Shore.
used to watch some Jersey Shore.
He used to club. Don't let him fool you. He has one dance move and he used to do it and he still does it and he thinks it's like the best move.
What is it?
I don't even know.
Yes, you do. It's your hand thing that you do. Let's see it. Let's see it.
I don't have a hand.
Yes, you do. No. Oh, I've never seen Chad Hunter modest, and he just went modest. So,
I'm on a podcast. I'm being
He's
professional.
camera shy. Okay, let's get into the next question. So, this was something that someone asked. What do you guys look for in a French ring prospect?
you're probably
What are your
better
top?
at answering this, even though I picked your puppy for you.
Well, this question can go both ways. It could go as in a handler prospect or in a dog prospect, because those are both prospects.
Let's talk about both. Let's do dogs first.
Yeah, no, of course. Obviously, it's regarding a dog, but
I'm gonna go pee, and
um,
he can do this.
oh, okay.
No, really, I have to pee.
So for me, I like to see it's. I would assume it'd be very similar with most dog sports. IPO, PSA, Mondio ring, French ring, is obviously a confident, forward-going puppy is what everybody wants, but not everybody has that right off the bat. Sometimes you have to, obviously, responsible people will take a lot of time to build puppies and do things. Um, I think to find, for me, to what defines a great prospect is that I don't have to have the greatest puppy at 8 weeks old, but if I have a puppy that's like trying and willing as well as like the handler, if that makes sense. Like in other words, for me, it's more like, how do I say this? I've seen a lot of people take dogs that probably shouldn't have done ring and they actually did very well with them because they were a great team with their dog
Yeah,
and they made it work and they made it happen. Does that make sense? I've seen more people that have had dogs that were absolutely exceptional dogs and they were just terrible handlers and they weren't able to take the dogs even a quarter of where I thought the dogs should have been, if that makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah.
So what makes a good prospect, obviously, first and foremost, if somebody comes to me and they have a dog that has a pedigree of some form of working pedigree, that for me is a very good start, right? Not saying a dog that's not bred to do it can't do it at all. That's not what I'm saying, but it makes things a lot easier when you have a race car that's bred for racing. I'm not
Yeah.
going to try to take my Prius and soup it up and take it as fast as I can go. Um, but a dog that that can. I like to see puppies. I always work my personal dogs, like my puppy. There are a lot of people out there that have an absolute stroke when they see me work my puppy, because I work my puppy at probably, like, call it a ring 12 level. Let's just put it that way. Like, I use the stick, I do this, I do pressure, I do this, gunshots, all type of stuff. I mean, I'm doing that at 8, 9 weeks old, and most people are like, that is so unfair to the dog. That is so not good for the dog. Like, if my dog can take the pressure and my dog can work through it and his tail's going 90 miles an hour, I'm going to keep showing it. I'm going to keep working him through it. That's how I work all of
Yeah.
my dogs. That's how I work all of my club dogs. I always like to work a dog at a little bit higher level than what they're going to see as a finished dog, especially. I like to show them more pressure than what they're ever going to see in a trial. I like to show them more difficulty what they're ever going to see in a trial. Same with jumps and obedience. Sometimes if I have a dog that's capable of doing it, I'll jump a dog at even a higher level than what they would ever do, even at max, and ring, if that makes sense. Just to always, if so, my theory is that when I go into trial, everything I've shown them in training, if they go in a trial, it's that much easier for them, because training has always been that much more difficult. So having a dog with that mindset, even as a young puppy, like a dog that's willing to go out there and willing to try. Again, I don't need the best biting dog. My dog Doska, she was a dog that she bit. She had about a 3/4 grip. She would bite. She'd hold on like this, and she would never let go. She wasn't countering. She never hurt you. She was never bruising decoys. She was not a flashy dog with her biting style. Let's just put it that way. And I beat everybody that entire year with that dog. I won a national championship with the dog every. So again, it's not. I don't need. Everyone has this theory that they want these monsters and these dogs to just bite and counter and sink in and grip. Like, I don't. I honestly don't even care about that stuff. I want my dog. If my dog can confidently hold on and have a consistent steady grip, especially as fighting the decoy. If they bite, hold on, because you're gonna get spun around. You're gonna get the stick cracked, across your back, all that
Yeah.
type of stuff. You're not gonna be sitting there letting the dog be able to counter in. Like, a dog's got to be able to hold a steady grip no matter what grip they have.
Yeah.
So, like I said, confidence is a big thing. I say more so, the thing that makes it hard for me, especially when I had a club with 25 dogs in it at one point, nothing is worse for a decoy than working a dog that doesn't want to be there.
Yeah.
So I had people that used to come out and they would bring their dogs, and we would back tie them and we'd do bungee work with them and try to build the dogs and do things with them. And I'd look at the lady. I'm like, this dog does not want to do this. This kid, you're making this kid play football and he just wants to play chess. Like, he just doesn't want to do this. Oh, no, he's a good dog. We're gonna keep doing. And it's like, listen, doesn't mean the dog can't eventually do that, but we got to change it up. We got to do something different, because it's there's it makes it very difficult. And having a dog bite and hold on, okay, let's go, let's we got 10 more seconds of biting. Okay, now let's honk the horn. Okay, now let's get the dog out. Now the dog's like, okay, phew, that's over with.
Yeah.
Like, it's that makes it very difficult to have a dog that doesn't want to be there. And have people, for me, I made it simple. I turned into kind of an asshole the last 5 years in ring sport when I started really making things clear for my club. If you're not here because you want to better yourself every training session, and you're not out there because you want to have the mindset to win every competition you're going into, I don't want you in my club, because it's a waste of my time. No disrespect.
Yeah.
I'm here because I want to put all my blood, sweat, and tears into you. I have I have torn tendons in my leg. I have hurt myself. I mean, I'm not that old. I'm 36 years old, but I feel like shit after I get in a suit and work Carly's dog, especially. And we have bangers in our club. We've got multiple ring 3 dogs in our club right now. So if I'm going to go out there, I'm going to sacrifice my knowledge, my expertise, and my body for you and your dog. You absolutely better have that mindset to make me want to continue to be there to help you. And I'll give you my shirt off of my back. If you're there, I will give you the shirt off of my back if you're a committed person. But if you're
Yeah.
giving me the bullshit, oh no, sorry, my cat's sick, oh my dog ate my homework, I can't come to the club, whatever. I don't deal with those people anymore, and people know it, and I'll call them out on it. I used to be the nice guy, I'd have people come out and we're working on the same thing that we were just working on 6 months ago with your dog, because you have not shown up to club, you have not committed yourself, you have not done your homework, you have not done any obedience with your dog. Like, I'm over it. So
Yeah.
for me, it's more so I'm honestly more along the lines of finding the right person. It's kind of like dog training. Like, I do pet obedience. That's how I make a living. I want to make sure that the client's a good fit for us before I
Same.
even go. And I know I can work their dog. I know I can fix their dog. I need to make sure that the client's a good fit. So same thing kind of with prospects. As you say, I know everyone has mentioned talking more specifically about what is a prospect regarding a dog, but you have to, that dog and that person are a team. And if they're not able to be on the same page and they're not able to work through, their faults and, problems and issues that they may have, then that handler will never progress and that dog will never go anywhere.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I definitely didn't perceive the question that way, and most people wouldn't, like you just said. But that is a really good point, and I agree. There's a dog is only able to do what the handler is able to do with the dog.
For sure.
You don't have the handler to bring the best out in the dog. You don't have the decoy to bring the best out of the dog. The dog can only go so far. So that's a really good point. And same thing with pet dog training. I'm also a professional trainer by day, and having a client that isn't going to do what you need them to do, you might as well not even work with their dog. I mean, they're just throwing their money at you for nothing.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a
We've
really good
seen
point.
that.
Yeah, I think anyone that's in the pet dog industry has.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's not even get into that. Right.
Yeah, like that's a different podcast.
That's a whole other episode. What are your favorite and least favorite aspects of Ring? So that could even just be like behaviors or exercise.
I reached a point now because of how busy I am in life, and listen, don't get me wrong, I love Ring. I'll always be involved with Ring and do it, but I'm not as obsessed with it as I was as this one over here right now.
Because I'm in my prime.
And
Yeah.
I've been doing it for a very long time. I've done it with a lot of dogs. I've trained all over the country. I've trained with a lot of people. Um, I honestly, the obedience portion of things is the least favorite thing for me. I love
Okay.
teaching jumping. I don't like obedience. I'm just, I've
You're
done it a million times. That's what I do for a living. I've done it with thousands and thousands of pet dogs. Like, training obedience is one of my least favorite things to do.
And I love obedience.
My expertise is anything in protection and bite work. That is my favorite thing. Any exercise, like any exercise, bite work in a suit, working a dog, I'll do that all day long. So I love any bite work portion of things. I can't stand the obedience portion of things.
But his favorite thing to teach is the object guard, for sure.
I love the object guard. That's
There
one of
there
my
ain't many people that can teach an object guard like this one right here.
What's your favorite, Carly?
I really like the retrieves. They're frustrating. I like
I
retrieves
hate
and
retrieves.
positions.
I hate retrieves.
When you have a dog that, like, there's dogs that retrieve, I feel like pretty naturally. I went back to my foundations of my one and only dog that I had. I just like, oh, you start your retrieves with a PVC pipe, right? Like, you just encourage the dog to not chew. Maestro would not put this thing in his mouth. It was so frustrating. I'm like, I can't get this dog to do this. And Chad's like, what are you doing? He's like, just go to the sock. Just go to the sock. Like, I'll never forget the day that he was just like, go to the sock. And I'm like, okay, but like, I don't want him to chew it. And he's like, okay, so don't let him chew it. And I'm like, okay. And I went like this and gave him the sock, and he literally took it and did not chew it. Like, he was just like, okay, I'll put this in my mouth all day long. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe how much I just like struggled with trying to put this fucking PVC pipe in his mouth.
Yeah.
So I do like the retrieves. I feel like all of his retrieves are like actually quite nice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's got a really good understanding for it, and he loves his finish. Like, he loves his front, and so he like nearly takes me out. So it's also a battle, but I really liked teaching those. He helped me a lot with the scene retrieve. I needed a lot of help with that, but and then positions. When you watch a ring trial and the dog like is just
Yeah.
got really nice obedience when the retrieves are nice and when the positions are really nice.
Yeah, there's nothing like ring positions. I'll say that. This was a question that I got. I got a lot of Maestro questions. Who are his upcoming litters? Besides a Cooley. So for anyone that doesn't know, if a Cooley passes their health testing, hopefully we'll have some Maestro Cooley babies in 2025.
Yeah, so he has his first, well, I guess I think his first will be with Alyssa and Josh in I think they're in New Hampshire, maybe
Yeah.
Massachusetts.
I should know this because they're in my region.
I don't remember. Either way,
I think New
PSA
Hampshire.
people, I feel like I'm gonna butcher saying their kennel name. So Conjurer
I don't know.
Pouvier or something like that. Sorry for probably messing it up, but they're female Nika. That's like his first planned breeding. She should be coming into heat quite soon. Um, and then his second is with David Broderick, Loop Stillac, super nice female sativa out of Bonkermels in France. And then third is
No third.
you're not doing it with Felix?
Oh, maybe. But let's. Dog's gotta prove himself first as a producer
Well,
before.
that's why I was limiting his spots right off the bat. Those three
We'll castrate him if he doesn't
that
produce.
he already approved to Felix. So don't Felix is gonna watch this and say, "What the heck, Chad?"
And I'll talk to Felix.
No, Felix is gonna get upset with you.
Poor Felix.
You're like, I don't know who that is, but
Yeah, but poor him. I hope it works out. I hope it works out for him. Someone also asked, when is your property for sale?
When's my property for
I
sale?
told you he was gonna eat this one.
Everything's for sale. Anytime. Give me an offer I can't refuse, and I will have my shit out of here in less than a week.
Okay, I'll
But it's
let.
not. It's not. No, it's not currently on the market. But if somebody wants to give me an offer,
He's a
then sure.
businessman. He says everything's for sale.
We could all relate to this. The video of you, Chad, with your baby walking. First of all, how did the time go by so fast that she's taking her first steps? I feel like you just had her.
I
I feel like
know.
I just had my baby, and he's almost 3 months old. So the time is flying by for all of us. What? And we kind of spoke about this, Carly, already. That you were telling me you'd already taken her on like a million flights. Like she's like fresh out of the oven. You're just flying around with her, taking her to all these places, and then you competed when you were a month postpartum. I feel like I could definitely relate to that just in the sense of I just feel like I don't want my life to stop because I just had a baby. Like we all have our own personal goals, goals that we want to meet with our professional lives, goals that we want to meet with our hobby, which is the sports.
For
Um,
sure.
so how has it been for you guys balancing having a baby and just not even just French ring, but like balancing having a baby to all of the work around dogs. I mean, obviously, both of us, we have multiple dogs. We have pretty similar lifestyles.
It takes a village.
For
Yeah,
sure.
I agree.
So everyone around here, I'm super fortunate to have all the people that work for me. Most of them are in our ring club as well. They live here on the property. So there's
Awesome.
5 people that work here that live on site here, but all of them are also involved with the ring club as well. I mean, hey, I've got to do this. Oh, I'll watch the baby, no problem. Okay, perfect. I mean, we're you got to have an open mindset and allowing like you got to kind of go get out of your own comfort zone too, and kind of get out of your own like mom dad kind of like, oh, but this is my baby and I can't give her to anybody. Like, no, she'll be okay. Like, this person can hold her. I'm gonna go work my dog and I'll come back and here's a bottle. Like,
I have a hard time with
you
that.
you what?
She's like, I have a hard time with that.
Yeah, it's hard, but it's you gotta it like I said, it's the people. If you trust the people and you know them, you have a routine and a regimen, and you know, incorporate the people that truly do want to help. Like, it's made our lives very easy,
Yeah,
for that sense. And the fact that she's no exaggeration, she's been on 14 flights already, the baby, and she's 11 months old.
crazy.
um, and she's been all over the country. Literally, she's been back to Florida. She's been to New York. She's been to Utah. She's been to California. She's been I can't even name the places. She's been everywhere.
Yeah.
And but it's also, don't get me wrong, it's stressful. It's a shit show. You know, going through the airport with 2 Malinois, a stroller, a partridge, and a fucking pear tree. It's a lot. But you gotta just
You
make
can't let your life stop.
You have
You
to
can't
do
just
let your
it.
can't.
life stop.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And but also I do that because I want her to look back and be like, look at all these dogs and wonderful people that she was a part of, and how many lives that she was involved. You know what I'm saying? Like, just like how many lives that even she's touched. You know what I'm saying? Like, we like to think that everyone's here to see our kid and our dogs. They don't even want to see us anymore. You know what I mean? Like,
It's true.
that's kind of how it goes. But just having incorporating them into, I mean, she's more regimented about a schedule than I am. I'm a little bit more lax about a schedule. Like, I'll put her to bed at 6, 7 o'clock. Nope, for her it's 5:30 every single night on the button. If she's not in bed, then she's going to bed. Like, that's how it is. But even when we're out traveling and doing things, she still gets it done. I mean, here's a pack and play. This isn't your crib, but here you go. Just follow the
Yeah.
same regimen. Here's your bottle. I mean, we did this. Here's also a piece of advice for anybody, even outside of dog sports, even kids with kids, is that if we're in Arizona and there's a 3 hour time difference when we go to New York, we're going to keep her on the same time frame as Arizona
Yeah, that's
than
smart.
what is on New York. So yeah, she was going to bed. She normally goes to bed at, let's say, 6 o'clock here. We're putting her to bed at 9 o'clock in New York, and then she usually wakes up at 6 o'clock here, but she wouldn't be waking up until 9 o'clock a.m. New York time, if that makes sense. So in other words, instead of trying to do that, so again, it's
Just keeping them on the same schedule.
keeping them
But
on a similar schedule, doing that type of stuff. But you gotta have the baby comfortable with changes and doing things. Like our she's been hanging on the dog since the time she was born. She's had 5 dogs glued to her side since day one, and that's all she knows is just dogs, 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 people, people. This is a revolving door around here between all the people we have coming here for training and seminars and guests and family and all this stuff. I mean, it's a zoo here,
a zoo.
and she's immune to it. We could pass her off to anybody and say, "Here you go. Hey, take her real quick. I'm gonna go upstairs and shower," and she's good with it. Like, she could care less.
That's awesome.
I feel
So
like it's easier. I feel like touching upon the conversation that we had, because I know you're like still in the pretty new phases. So
Yeah.
when you remember when we first brought her home, I was like, I don't want just anyone touching her, especially kids. I had a thing about kids. I'm like, no, I
I know
don't
you.
want any kids touching her. Remember, I was freaking out. I'm like,
mhm.
I don't want any kids touching her. That's just like a cubicle of germs. Like,
Yeah.
no. And then like 2 months into it, we're flying. Her first flight, she was 2 months old, and it was like a quick like hour flight or hour 30 minute from Utah or something, I think. But it's one of those things where I feel like when you start to just kind of inch out of your comfort zone, you kind of become more comfortable with other things. And the one thing I can say is like try not to get so like stuck and like no, because it's good like think about your puppies, right? Like you don't want to like harbor your puppies and never bring them out into society and like not expose them to things, but you got to like inch out a little bit at a time so that you can kind of get comfortable. This way it's not overwhelming for you.
Yeah.
um it's hard, but our biggest thing was like we've got so much stuff going on all the time, and like we live a super good life. Like we're both obviously super happy, and we didn't want to have to leave her behind. We want her to come with us. We want her to be a part of everything, and we don't want to stop living our lives just because we had a kid. Like, as much as she really wasn't planned, she's the best thing that has happened to us, and she's definitely the highlight of our days. Like we wake up and we're like, where's Tate? We miss Tate. Like we know where she is obviously, but we're just like we're excited to see her,
You're
you know.
ready for her to wake up.
Exactly. And then like sometimes she'll sleep in and we're like, why is she still
Yeah,
sleeping? I want to wake her up. And like there's sometimes that he's gone, he'll come back and he's like, I miss her. Can I wake her up? I'm like, no, absolutely not. I'll never forget like when she was first born, like we were neurotic and we're like, oh, we have to wake her up to feed her. Like, she has to eat. And then I'm like talking to my family and they're like, wait a minute, you wake her up in the middle of the night to feed her? You wake her up? And we did that for a little bit, remember?
Yeah.
We woke her up to feed her and
they
they're
tell
like,
you to do that, but I
you
never did.
never wake a
That
sleeping
makes no
baby.
sense. But like
Yeah.
they tell you to do that. So yeah, I
The
don't
the
know.
doctors do tell you to do that.
Yeah.
But I honestly, once my family was like, "What? You wake her up? Don't wake her up." And I stopped waking her up, and she's doing great. So,
It never made sense to me when they would tell me that because I'm just like, he wakes up when he's hungry all the
yeah.
time. Why am I
Yeah.
just gonna be like, wake up, it's
Wake
time to
up,
eat?
you need to eat.
Yeah, like
Exactly.
what the
Yeah.
heck?
You got
Um,
to you got to figure out what works for sure.
The hard part though too is that she tried to breastfeed, and as much as like that was like important for us to be able to like have that experience,
It didn't
we
work.
it didn't work. And being able to like honestly have a formula baby, it made things definitely a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Just here you go, here's a bottle, see you later. Because like literally, it's like you're gonna go, I gotta go, we gotta do this. You take her, I'll take her. Hey, I'm gonna rest. Perfect. I could just mix a bottle. I don't have to wake you up. Whatever. It just that made things a lot easier. And I know that's hard because I wanted her to breastfeed. I was super adamant about her doing that, but
Yeah.
it ended up panning out this way, and it ended up working out fine.
It was more of a mind fuck because I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna do this and it's gonna be fine. And like, shame on the hospitals. I feel like I don't know if you had the same experience, but I like asked for a lactation consultant and I didn't get one until I think it was like 3 hours before I got discharged from the hospital. So I was like attempting to breastfeed her in the hospital and she just wasn't latching like she should. Like she didn't open up or like baby bird like they say wide enough, and she destroyed me in a matter of 24 hours, like sliced me in half to the point where it was so painful for her to nurse that I'm like, I just can't do this.
Yeah.
So I tried to pump and I pumped for probably like 4 or 5 weeks.
Hmm.
And I did decent and then just like tanked. Like my production just tanked and I'm like, I couldn't keep up with what she was eating. And I was like, it's more stressful on me than anything and it's just not worth it. So she got colostrum. That was
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, and I think the biggest misconception, at least for me, I mean, you probably felt the same. I thought like breastfeeding or pumping was just like you just do it. Like everyone just does it. Like your baby
Yeah.
just hatches, it just happens. You just make
Yeah,
it up.
for
Like
sure.
people make it seem like it's just this thing that is just easy when like
Yep.
it's not. Like a lot of babies have latching issues. A lot of people don't produce enough. I got sick and my supply dropped and you're crying about it. You feel terrible. You're just like you feel like you're not enough, and I just wish that it was more well known that a lot of people have these issues. Like my mom tried to breastfeed with me and she didn't make enough. So I'm
Yeah.
lucky that I am. But yeah, it's
That
a
is
lot.
best. That's what.
What are the best and worst things about breeding?
So any responsible breeder will tell you that there is anybody that tells you that they breed for the money is
An idiot.
is an idiot.
Yeah.
No, I understand that there are people out there they breed these doodles and fluffy this and fluffy that and burn a doodle this and burn a doodle that, and they sell the ever living Christ out of them and they make a living of it, and that's how they feed their families. Great, more power to them.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna put this more in a working dog perspective. No breeder's gonna tell you that because they know that that's not the thing to say. But there's a lot of people out there that do it for the money.
Yeah.
And they pair dogs together to breed them, and they sell the puppies, and they make the money, and they go on, and they live happily ever after. Well, any responsible breeder will tell you that, like for instance, for me, I'm on my
Next will be O.
O litter, so however many letters of the alphabet that is, so it's called 15, 16, 17 litters that I've had. Just of Malinois, not included.
But that's over a span of 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Like
A
there's
lot
people that do that in 2.
of
the worst thing about it is obviously when you have a handful of puppies that don't do well and trying to keep up with them and tube feeding them and all. I mean, it's just that's the breeder's nightmare. You know what I mean? That type of thing. Or I had to litter with 15 puppies, and I had a mom that had only 8 working nipples, and I'm up every 2 hours to try to rotate puppies and keep them going. And I lost a handful of puppies from that litter. It was just a
sorry,
nightmare.
that's horrible. I've seen
There's
that.
way more time because obviously you got to value your time at something, but there's way more time and literal blood, sweat, and tears put into, even if it's the easiest litter in the world, there's still so much blood, sweat, and tears that goes into that. And I've had females that literally I check on them and I'm like, you've done this before, cool, I'll see you in the morning. You know what I mean? I'll look at on the camera the puppies are eating. I'll be honest with you, like I didn't even go out there and hardly check on the puppies, as much as I should every 2-3 hours. I'm going out there every 5-6 hours in the beginning, and they absolutely thrive and they do excellent.
Yeah.
But the hardest part um, is definitely knowing how to handle and make the right decisions and choices. And not that I've had a whole lot of puppies, but I think I had like one puppy that was born with like a cleft palate, or a puppy that had an issue with its leg or things like that. Like, what do you do with that puppy? You're going to raise that puppy? You're going to put the time and money into it and find the right home because you obviously can't sell that puppy. Like things like that. Like what do you are you making the right choices? I grew up on basically on a ranch and the farm mentality of, listen, like if it ain't meant to be, it ain't meant to be. And I've had moms take puppies and put them in the corner of the whelping boxes and leave them there. And of course, our emotions and the way people are nowadays, especially, is, oh my God, save this puppy. I'll just keep it in my bedroom with me and I'll bottle feed it. There's a
Yeah.
reason why that mom keeps putting that puppy over there. I don't care who you are, but cut the bullshit aside. Let Mother Nature run its course. I'm gonna help the puppy do what I can to, see if I can get it back involved and do its thing. But if mom keeps taking that puppy individually and putting it outside the whelping box or putting it in the corner of the whelping box, that dog knows everything and we don't know shit. So
Yep.
let Mother Nature tell you what needs to happen in that point in time. And that for me is the hardest part because our emotions tell us completely different. And that's what we deal with in the pet dog world all day long. Do you really want to spend $4,000 or $5,000 to try to put the time into this dog that's still going to continue to bite your kids and your husband in the face? That's
Hmm.
still going to shit and piss all over your house. That is a genetic disaster. Like it's hard
Yeah.
because our emotions take over. So that's things like that are the hardest part. Just and doing morally what's best interest of for the dog and for the for the breed, to preserve the breed, those types of things. The best part is obviously the from a working dog standpoint, as we're talking about here, the best point is like the reward of seeing how that litter produces, or how dogs start to take off. And now this dog has his brevet, now this dog has his ring one, and now, hey, this dog from this litter has this, and hey, this dog in PSA is now doing this and has done great thing. And just seeing like how these dogs evolve and how they mature, like that's the rewarding part, because that's what you're in it for. You're in
Yeah.
it to produce phenomenal dogs. To I like everything and all the characteristics of this dog and this dog, and I want to put them together for this reason. And that's what, when people ask me, hey, are you interested in studying your dog out, or hey, I want to breed to Horus, or hey, I want to breed to so and so, whoever you've got, I always ask them. I said, well, what are your intentions with the litter? And sometimes people don't know how to answer that. Well, in my opinion, everyone should be able to know how to answer that. This is what I want. I'm looking for my next. Most of the litters that I've done, I've bred for 100% for myself, because I'm looking for a dog for myself. But meanwhile, I have a handful of people that look up to me and that are waiting for my, basically, I used to have like waiting lists of people that are waiting for puppies for me. And meanwhile, as I'm trying to find a prospect for myself, I have 10 responsible people that are also willing to take puppies from this litter as well. They're going to take them and do the same intentions as what I have with them. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah.
Having homes lined out for them, having, creating a following. My first litter, my A litter, I I didn't have a reputation with mountain walls at that point in time. I had nobody knew who the hell I was, and that was kind of difficult. I already had intentions of doing exactly what I'm doing now. They all went on to doing great homes and great things. A lot of them went on to like some police dogs prospects and some dual purpose prospects and kind of some things like that. But once I was able to kind of build a little bit of a name for myself, then immediately people from the French Ring and even from IPO and that type of stuff were reaching out to me and saying, "Hey, I want a sport prospect. This is what I want. You've obviously have been doing this for a short period of time and had success with it. So and so said that I should reach out to you." And so those are, really having, I like to like Waleed was a guy that I always looked up to, because he's the one who I got my first Malinois from. I talked to him all the time. I talked to him about training and breeding, things like that. Like, that guy knows his shit. Like, he's, in my opinion, one of the greatest Malinois breeders ever in the U.S. Like, hands down. Like, that guy knew it, knew
Yeah.
some shit for sure. And he was kind of the one that I took a lot of my mentality from into what I want to do with my breeding program. And just, I want to just produce some badass, stellar working dogs, like dogs that people are gonna know, people are gonna say, like, I want to have dogs that are gonna create, just speak for themselves.
Yeah. I mean, it's safe to say that they have, obviously.
Yep. Yep.
That's
Also, kind of circling back around to kind of like the hard parts or the worst parts about it as well, is being a responsible breeder, in the sense of, what are you going to do when that person calls you? I had a litter that by the time they were 6 months old, I had 4 people from that litter call me and tell me that their dogs had OCD lesions in their shoulders and that the dogs had to have surgeries.
Oh
And
god.
I had just done a repeat breeding at that point in time with the exact same dogs.
because
Oh
they were
no.
so
And I
nice.
didn't know because it was such a nice litter.
Oh my
I did a
gosh.
repeat breeding, so I already knew that that next litter that was already going to hit the ground up and coming was more than likely going to have that congenital defect as well. And so I did the responsible thing. And yeah, I had some issues with some people in the first part of things. Like my contract had stated, like, listen, I'll buy the dog back from you, and I'll give you right to a puppy down the road. But of course, most of the people get too many emotions involved, and they don't want to sell the dog back to me, and they want the money back, and it just turns into a mess. So having a contract lined out, having making sure those things are clear. And that other litter that I had, that repeat breeding that I did, I gave the puppies away with people understanding, like, listen, I gave every single puppy away knowing that, hey, just so you know, these dogs are going to more than likely have a congenital issue with some OCD lesions in their shoulders. And only I think three dogs in that litter did. But guess what? I still talk to the people every single day that know those dogs. Again, it's about just knowing how to handle those types of decisions. And I lost my ass. I spent thousands of dollars on both of those litters to be able to whelp them and take care of them and take dogs back and everything that I did to do that.
And they still were super, super nice
And
dogs.
they still were very nice.
They're so nice dogs, such nice dogs.
So that's the hard part is that then everyone, as I say, will hate you for making one decision, or everyone will say, "Oh, I can't believe you did this," or "Hey, it's just create a mindset, stick with that mindset, and believe in the
What
whole
you're
reason you
doing.
did it and what you're doing in the first place." Part of one of the things I told myself as well, and I was able to accomplish it. Um, I wanted to, when I started breeding, I said, not only do I want to have, because, and listen, in most cases, because it's, we know it's very difficult to have a nice female that you can compete with, but also use for breeding. Like it's very hard to do that. And part of what I wanted to do a little bit differently is that I wanted to have a not just a well-bred female. I wanted to have a female that also prove also, hey, listen, this dog also has competed. She's also has a handful of titles herself. She's also does A, B, and C.
Yeah.
Instead of 99 out of 100 times, if you look at people when they breed, they have a very nice male that's had all types of accomplishment. That's what most people are kind of going by. And then you have oh, look at this female. Let's see what her pedigree is. Oh, she's got a ring 3 dad and a ring 3, grandfather. Perfect. Let's breed them.
Yeah.
Okay, great. But like, does that female, does she do anything? Does she work? Does she, and I don't mean does she, have a ring 2, ring 3? Does she, is she on the bite suit? Does she work? Is she good with kids? Is she good with other dogs? Like what that's a lot of people don't realize, but in my opinion, a female is what is going to produce most traits to those puppies than anything.
I
And
agree.
everyone just goes based off, oh, Maestro, he's so pretty. Oh my God, when are you going to breed this dog? I
He's
love
so
Maestro.
pretty.
Don't get me wrong. I'm incredibly proud of the dog. But you have to make sure that that female is just as capable of holding those traits as well. And just because you have a nice dog, I've taken dogs. I've had personal dogs that were absolutely bred. I had one litter that I had absolutely exceptional lines, like exceptional, like on paper, it was the greatest thing that ever, like everyone was pumped for this litter. It was the worst litter I ever had. It was awful. The dogs were
It's so
terrible in
funny
that
how
litter.
those things turn out like that. But it's true. Like sometimes very mid-level dogs produce really high-level dogs, and then really high-level dogs can produce low-level dogs.
We just say genetics are a shit show. Like that's realistically what it is at the end of the day. You can put the greatest of dogs together and you just have no idea. You just really never know. Even repeat back to back breedings, you've had completely different outcomes on the same breeding.
So she's 11 years old now. She lives with a very good friend of mine, with my dog Doska that I was telling you about. She's she was like, I have videos of her on YouTube at like 10 weeks old, like it's like unbelievable things. Like people are like, holy shit, I can't believe that dog is doing that. And she was from day one, like she was just a very, very special dog. Like I knew, no exaggeration when I say this, I knew when she was 6 weeks old, I knew like I am going to go take this dog as far as she can possibly go, and I will promise you that. And I got very lucky with her because in heat, out of heat, no matter what was going on, she was the same dog all the time. I had zero
You are
issues with
lucky
her.
for that.
I
You're
bred her.
God bless.
I
I'll never
bred
take
her.
another female, trust me.
I bred her and had Kratos's litter, and also went, and that was, he was born in 2016. Yeah, 2016. And I qualified. He was born in April. I got her leg back up, and I did 2 qualifying legs of Ring 3, did a regional championship with her, and she was qualified for the championships. I just didn't take her because she was in heat, and I didn't want to take Horace, who was also qualified for the championships. I didn't want them in the same hotel room all weekend long
That would have
and
been
to
a lot.
lose his mind. So
Yeah.
realistically, she could have had a litter of puppies and basically podiumed that same year, but just goes to show you just how much of
Stable.
how
She was
stable and
so
just how
consistent.
awesome she was of a
Yeah.
dog. Like she kicked back into shape like that, like she was unbelievable. She had a litter of puppies in April, and she was getting ready. She was competing, in basically I think August. She had her next trial.
That's so awesome.
And
Yeah.
she was like the type of dog that was so obsessed with Chad. Like that's where Maestro gets his obsession with me. Like you can obviously encourage that in training, the engagement aspect of things, but like those dogs genetically came out and just wanted to be with their people and please and please and please. And like I'll be in the shower and Maestro will just be like standing in the shower and it's kind of creepy, but he's like and
He's
I'm
like,
like, why does he do that? He goes, Doska, 100% because of Doska. Like that's what he's like, Doska used to stand in the shower with me and stare at me. Like, that's just how they are.
My puppy is out of
Jova,
Jova du Banc de Cermel, and then the bottom side is
I think,
he's all du Banc de Cermel, which is top and bottom. So Jova is like his dad, and then the bottom side I think is
Hendrix.
um, Hendrix and Gavroche and like a lot of those dogs. It's
It's
all very
all
heavy,
French stuff.
all heavy French du Banc de Cermel. Top and bottom is all du Banc de Cermel.
And he's bred by Emily Roach in California, who actually is like
She
trains
imported the
with,
female,
yeah,
pregnant.
pregnant from her significant other who owns Jova, which was a very, I think, successful breeding from that kennel, Banc de Jamel.
Yeah.
Jova was I think this was his first breeding, but a lot of his litter mates have been bred and they've produced like very, very nice dogs. So it was kind of
He's a very he's a very very thick, big, stable puppy.
massive.
Like
Now,
he's gonna be a monster.
yeah.
Like
And so is his dad. Like Jova is a thick, big male, like you look at him and you're like, this dog won't be able to jump. And he's just like, there's a picture of him that Emily was showing me, and he's like jumping the long jump at max. And he's just staring at the camera sideways as he's jumping, like effortlessly. It's like ridiculous. So,
I also got him too because as much as some people have already questioned me, like why have you not gotten another Horse kid, or why are you not taking a puppy from one of your breedings, or why are you not taking a Maestro puppy? Like I.
he is.
I wanted a dog that also down the road I can open my lines back up to. You know what I mean? Like I want something I can do an outcross to. Because over the last, especially 4 or 5 years since we've had a lot of these dogs, they're very tightly knitted,
yeah.
and I like to be able to, okay, it's time to open the lines back up again. As much as this has produced great things, we got to start to open it up a little bit. So I also got him because he's a complete outcross. He's not even.
I was gonna say all of our females, or all the females that he has, are out of Horus. So it's like we don't have means to a lot of females, and everything that we do have is a daughter of Horus. So it gets kind of tricky from here on out.
Yeah. You gotta add in something new. Hi, buddy.
Don't worry, our kids started screaming during this podcast, and I was just like, she'll figure it out. She
Did she
did.
figure it out? Yeah,
She has been such a good sleeper, but since she was sick, like for the first time in her life, she slept upstairs with us, and now I think she's like, oh, I wake up, and then they bring me upstairs, and I'm like,
How old is she right now?
she's gonna be 1 on March 1st.
Oh, I
Yeah.
knew she was getting older, obviously, because she's walking. I didn't realize she was going to be 1.
Yeah,
Oh
no,
my
she's almost 1, and she's very much aware of things.
Thank you so much for coming on my podcast. I was super excited for this episode. So were a lot of people. I had a lot of people asking when I was going to drop it. Are you talking?
Hi.
So thank you for all your. Wow, you're just going off right now. Thank you for all the valuable insight, experience, all of that stuff. Oh my gosh, you're so talkative. You just started talking. It's so cute. All right, I'll stay on topic. All right, can you continue?
You're
I'm
like,
getting,
take the kid, I can't
I'm getting
focus.
distracted by his cuteness. I don't know what you did to his hair. Okay, so thank you all for watching. Thank you guys for coming on. I really enjoyed talking with you. Hopefully one day we'll get to meet in person.